I wake up, there's another psyop. I'm going a bit insane. Okay. Hello, welcome to today's stream. What are we doing today? We're gonna finish this goddamn programming streaming console, okay? Why is the streaming console such a major deal for me? Oh my god, I need to bring the iPad back here. Okay, kids, have the iPad. Here we go. Okay. Billy, don't fight with your sister. All right? What did I tell you? Be nice to your sister. Billy, I swear to God, I'll give you a free adoption. Stop that. And then you go, I'm sorry, Dad. I don't want to go for adoption again. I don't want to go back. Stop fighting over the iPad. You know what I mean? Like, that's a good way of doing it. Welcome to the race. Thank you. Nice butt. Thank you. Thank you. You have lost 3 VIP points for being parasocial. I just want you to know that. You're on thin ice, buddy. You're in thin ice. All right. Every little parasocial statement, -3, okay? Oh, how are you feeling today? -3. Oh, what's the weather like? -3. You're trying to dox me. Welcome. Sorry, welcome to today's stream. What are we doing today? Well, today's kind of a hard day to figure out because it all depends on my friend. If they're available for co-op, they're waiting for a call, and they have to go at 5. And in my head, I'm thinking, why the fuck did you plan so many things on the worst day possible? But I don't blame them for it. They have to make these calls. What I hate is that they planned a movie night on the same day. I'm like, oh man, I don't know if this is gonna work. So we're gonna see if sweet defecation can make it or like not. We'll see how it goes. As well, we're gonna be programming the whole day. Why? Because I can't think of a game to play that would be a good activity to do that will have to be interrupted in between. So it'll be interrupted in the middle of us doing something, which is fine for programming, kind of, because we can save our progress, right? Everything else that we do, there's no easy way to save our progress. If we're in the middle of an emotional segment, until then, I don't think I can recover, right? So we're going to have to figure out a good way of doing things. Yep. D colon face. Capital D colon face. However, I want to get into a bit of a new ritual. I like the idea of starting with DLEs because even though they're boring, I find them very, very fun at the same time. There's something about playing them with all of you that makes me realize that none of us know what we're doing and we need to get outside more. That's really the point of what today's segment is. But yeah, welcome to today's stream. Today's stream will be significantly more scuffed than usual. It's gonna be very much on the fly, but hopefully you'll enjoy the program. Again, yesterday was a day that Daddy had to go fill up the war chest with gold. And boy, oh boy, was it fun to fill up the war chest. I hate job interviews, especially for tech stuff. It's not even like the good part is that I have time to find it, which is like nice. Like I have a lot of time to find it. Maybe even like 2 or 3 years, right? I'm very lucky to have that. To be able to take my time to go back into the industry, find a place that's actually good that I want to be at. But let me just take a bite of my spaghetti, and I'll talk about this. It's a Filipino style spaghetti that's like sweet. It's really good. I think you should try it. I think before when I didn't really like it at first, I think my tongue wasn't used to it. But now that my tongue is used to it, I'm a big fan of sweet spaghetti, the Filipino style, with the hot dog slices. It's really good. It's strange. It's like new, but it's really good. However, still a big fan of the way the Italians make it. Because the Italians make it with 2 ingredients: tomatoes and noodles. That's it. That's all you really need. So, I mentioned it before that job interviews have gotten worse, right? I've noticed this a lot. Even back when I first started, it was way different. When I first started, you do one test. A very simple test, FizzBuzz. You go in. If you can solve FizzBuzz, back then, if you were able to solve FizzBuzz, you were the hot shit, right? Nowadays, I'm prepared for it. But I recognize how weird the system is. I've always wondered this about tech recruiting practices. Right now, you have to do what is called leak code. It's sort of it's the colloquial term that has become like a company's identity because they kind of latched onto it when he was getting popular among companies that wanted to get their candidates to do something. So let me show you actually. This is a very interesting explanation of the history of what leak code is, and like why is it called leak code, and what exactly is leak code, and how come people just don't call it by its real name, knowledge of algorithms. Okay, well the iPad has to go. Sorry, is that okay? Can I get rid of the iPad? Okay, sweetie, can Daddy get rid of the iPad? No, keep the iPad. Listen to you little shit. Oh wait, sorry, it like lagged. To get rid of this, bring this down. So I failed the interview. No, I passed. Well, actually, I don't know. I feel like I passed because I answered everything correctly. And we like, because the again, this Lico stuff, I'm gonna get into why it's weird. Basically, I never failed these, but even if you never fail these, you still hate them on some level because of how they are and how weird the structure they are. Sorry, give me 1 second. I wake up, there's another psyop. Sorry about that. I'm back. That's the ringtone of an old man. No. The ringtone of old men is like the Nokia default one, right? And like apparently the Nokia default one had different versions. So the meme version that you hear within like different videos and stuff is the Arabic version. Well, so quote unquote, it's called the Arabic version. I don't really know what that means, and I don't necessarily believe that that's the actual origin, but that's the name of the meme version. I was doing a lot of research into meme songs. There's actually a lot of weird meme songs now that are coming from this old time. That's like the sound of the old people, but it's like it's just the sound of like mid-20s to late 20s people. So for us, it's like, wait, we grew up with this. What do you mean it's old now? And it's like, oh wait, I'm old now. So yeah, welcome back, Chad. I know, right? You think your mom has it? Well, tell your mom, tell your mother, she has good taste. Now, leak code. Why am I so upset about leak code? Okay, I pass these tests every single time. The reason why I hate them is because it feels like a backwards approach to job interviews. And it feels like a backwards approach compared to what every other industry has, which is weird, but I'll get into this. If you think about lawyers, right? Well, they've done a really hard test that guarantees that they know what they're talking about. Programming doesn't really have that. And, I mean, doctors have this too. Like a lot of industries have this. It's for some reason, programming, despite having so much emphasis placed on theoretical knowledge and the ability to retain it, as well as to execute on it, has no system by which we formalize the results over a long period of time that then says, okay, this person knows what they're doing. In a way, comp sci programs were kind of the design that was supposed to solve this problem. The problem is that a lot of computer science programs suck. My old manager actually, he also used to sit down in like classes to review things. He did it before I did, and he was like, "Yeah, the first class I sat in, they had no clue what any of the real technologies being used out there were, and they believed that everybody was still using like like COBOL level stuff. Like the stuff that they were teaching was very very old, but the fundamentals were still there." And I was like, "Okay, like it makes sense why people don't want to necessarily rely on it too much for going right into a job and working on things, but." The fundamentals are still there. If you need to have knowledge of algorithms, sure. The problem that's interesting about programming is that it does sit in this weird space between the theoreticals as well as the practicals, right? On the theoretical side, that knowledge will kind of stay with you for as long as you remember it. I remember it often. I forget it very, very often. So like every couple of months, I have to like redo this like segment. And I think the ratio is like you do 50 easy questions, 30 medium, 10 hard or something. And I'll get into what these questions are. But even then, right, it's not that hard to review on it. At the same time, it's just annoying to have to do it every single time, and that they don't believe that I can do it on the fly at the moment every single time. So, the way these tests are run, it's a bit like how doctors feel like they get jobs, except looking from the outside until you realize that inside they have to go back to school like every couple days or like keep up. But I'll get into that. But the way it feels like is that they expect you to know everything. I'm sorry for my chewing. I'm also eating. They expect you to know everything out of the bat and remember it for time immemorial. This is impossible. Why is it impossible? I'm going to tell you after I drink. The reason why it's impossible is because memory is a very flawed construct. Even in computers, it's flawed. To very extreme cases, in very extreme cases, right? But in the human mind, it's even less malleable than a piece of technology that can barely tell between 1 and 0. So what ends up happening is that we we'll forget what we've learned. And that's kind of annoying when you come to the moment of. However, it's not that hard to learn. You just need at least like a month to go through things at a reasonable pace. The problem then is you run into this weird catch 22 of to prepare for a new job. If you don't want to not make money, you must stay within your old job and find time that magically appears that will never appear. Because there's only 24 hours in a day, you're probably stretched thin in many different ways, right? You're a great yapper, not gonna lie. No. It's not that I'm a great yapper. It's that I just talk, and if somebody listens, good luck, Godspeed. Um, what was I saying? You say I'm a great yapper, but I have short-term memory loss. See, the human mind is fallible, and it's funny that they expect you to know these things all the way through, and that you have perfect memory recall of it. And that they test you on it. They're not testing you on your ability to re-understand the problem, reorient yourself with maybe even for some people decades old knowledge, and then go right back into it, which they're able to do, like even in the moment they're able to do, and you're gonna be doing that on the job anyways. You won't remember every single solution, right? Like you won't be able to recall CRDTs right at that moment when you need to make a Google Docs competitor. It's gonna take you like a moment to like think about it and then realize, oh wait, yeah, I've seen this before. I know what this is. This has a standard approach. We know what to do about this to make it a performance and like be scalable, right? Atomic rays do be trolling your RAM. I don't see. I like that meme, but at the same time, I wonder how often that like happens, right? If you leave your computer in the sun, it's going to melt. Like you will suffer heat loss. You'll suffer like premature heat death before you ever suffer whatchamacallit, like a flipped bed. IMO. However, I am not an engineer, so we'll figure it out. You know how there's like IANO for I'm not a lawyer? What's the equivalent for like engineers? I don't want to think about it. But yeah, the way that it works now feels very, very backwards to what you would expect, right? Again, on the job, you can look it up very easily, and it only takes you like a couple of moments to reorient yourself. Especially if you've been in the industry for a while, you just like learn these things as part of your fundamentals, and then you like know these things, right? I understand it from the point of view of wanting to weed out, say, quote unquote, the hoi polloi programmer, quote unquote, right? The idea of a programmer who doesn't necessarily know what they're doing. Somebody who like comes in as like a self-taught person. But at the same time, your average homegrown self-taught developer, they're going to have a different skill set. Their skill set is in the crafting and the building of the code, not necessarily the algorithmic, I guess, like solutions that would come up, right? Teaching them that mindset is a whole different problem that can't be solved by this test, and you lose out on a valuable you lose out on a valuable point of view from a developer that is focused on the craft of it versus necessarily the theoreticals, right? Because the craft of it is also just as important. It's so important, in fact, that we have a term for what happens when the craft of it fails, even though the theoreticals are sound, right? Your theoreticals could absolutely be sound, right? You could absolutely be doing things correctly. Your code could be so bad that you have tech debt. Like we have a term for this, and yet we somehow are filtering people out, right? I'm saying this from the perspective of somebody who's both self-taught, but self-taught through a traditional track. Like I just went through the track, I just didn't pay for it. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like I'm in a weird space where I see both sides and I see the benefits of both sides. But a lot of these places don't. Yeah, like people like you, exactly. Like people like you. People like you who can't do anything. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. You know what's funny? To those of you who are my VIPs, I treat you the worst, right? The closer you get to me as like a streamer, the worse I treat you. That's how you keep viewers on their toes, right? Because you might think, okay, I'm moving up the like, you know, this like theoretical rank inside the like chat, but no, your average no flair, no name, no border, no nothing, you know, chatter, like Banan Mandan in your area has more respect from me than you, Tavadi, right? It just works. But yeah, we're gonna see how this goes. But I think even then, your experience is important. I think your experience is actually very, very important to the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of things, because we have this term called tech debt, and actually we do suffer a lot from it. You butchered the pronunciation. Listen, Chad, I'm trying. Look on the screen. Look at your name, okay? I blame Twitch. No, I blame Twitch for not having spaces. If there were spaces, I could figure it out, right? when too many letter make word look like mess. And also English is just a it's just a weird language to like read. The way that you read English and the way that like you write things out, it's weird how you can like compose different things. It's Banana Man. Well, okay, sorry for not seeing the invisible A in your name. What the brother, my brother in Christ, you can't put that on me. You're missing an A. Well, what happened? Oh man, but Banan is good though. Banan is good. So yeah, I find the job interview process to be very very strange because they seem to neglect both sides and they hammer on one side very very hard while also kind of letting in people who may not have any practice but a lot of really good theoreticals on the other side as well. How do you like it puts the onus of the job interview onto the person who's taking the job interview instead of the person who's giving it, molding it in some way that actually works out well. Because usually what they do is just they just give you an algorithmic question. Doesn't really matter which. They just grab from this list, and then they say, okay, can you like will they do one easy? If they can do it easy, then they're like at least passing something. Can they do an intermediate? Okay, then we'll get them a role most definitely. If they can do a hard, then they're in for sure. If they can do like an insane expert level, then it's like all right, get this guy in, right? And yet, none of that really matters in the grand scheme of things because they do that for jobs where you're a web developer. This is the other side of things that I hate about it, and why I hate this so much. It's like any other career and job where you're going to get roles, you're going to be working on things that have no consequence. There is no need to have this level of of assurance that somebody can do the role for something as simple as like making a bunch of marketing websites. In fact, I would think that jobs that where you make a bunch of marketing websites are the place to have new developers train up and even existing developers kind of own their craft, right? Because it's one of those roles where the floor is low but the ceiling is very high. And so you can kind of work your way through, but a lot of places think, no, I don't want the floor. I want at least the middle, never realizing that somebody has, like, everybody starts on the floor. Everybody starts on the floor crawling like a baby before they walk on two legs. And nobody realizes that this is the way it should go. I passed these tests. What I hate is the fact that if this happens to people who can't pass these tests for whatever reason that would otherwise be great developers. And I've seen this, right? You get into issues of anxiety. You get into issues of memory recall. You even get into issues of just they've never seen the problem before, which is absolutely possible because how can you name any like just any random algorithm like out there for any solution? Probably not. It's probably impossible for you because the field moves so fast. And yet that's what people expect to work on shitty websites for marketing like firms to like make like a website like not okay well not like Willy Dogs. I think the Willy Dogs website was a bit of a classic. Okay, if you weren't there, Willy Dogs, what's it called again? Willy Dogs. I think this website is kind of a fantastic website because of the story that was on the website. I still hold that this is one of the strangest testimonials I've ever read in my entire life. Where is it? About us. Where is it? Where's your story? Give me your story. Tell me about how China left India or something. That was a weird fucking story that just popped out of nowhere. You were molding yesterday with C, zero subscript and string length. You think you hate zero subscript after all. A what? Zero subscript. Yo, a dinosaur on the screen. Oh my god, guys, it's a dinosaur. Yo. That's funny. What is zero subscript? I don't know what you mean by zero subscript. I'm just so confused by what you mean by that whole sentence. Sorry. About what you were molding over. C0 subscript. Because C0 reminds me of Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat. Maybe it's called something else. Don't worry. Then try your best to explain it in terms of like the behavior. And then I'll tell you whether or not you're right or you're wrong, and then we'll grill you live. But I won't name you for the sake of your anonymity chatter. I'm just kidding. I'm just curious, okay? I'm just curious, so just let me know. But yeah, like even something like that, right? Like something that to me is quote unquote maybe simple. Like I think of subscript and I think like cutting out various parts of strings, and then C's like no like if I forget the name now, the like null identifier starting at the very end thing. But people who have never worked with C but are very capable programmers otherwise wouldn't know about those like gotchas in like C string handling. And it's like, okay, well, what do you do then? Do you deny them the ability to work in a website? No. But for some reason, these companies do. Like these companies will do these same bog standard sort of like copy paste tests for things that don't even pertain to the job. And so again, I feel bad for the people who have to take them. Okay, I feel bad for your average person who has to take, these jobs because when do you find time to practice? When do you find time to learn? When do you find time to actually figure all this stuff out? When you have to work a full time job paying your stuff off, as well as trying to get into the industry as a well, right? And you had life to like deal with on the side. If you're somebody who has like time, then what does it mean for the people with experience? In a weird way, the people who like don't have the experience but have all the time in the world have a better shot at getting into the industry than the people who like have experience but don't have the time to recall things. It's a very stupid system. And again, this applies to every single job, whether it's a very simple programming job or a very large programming job. Let me tell something else. The index starting with 0. You think you hate 0 subscript after all. Will you, I guess, like describe the behavior of what you were trying to do? I still, in my mind, it feels like it's a conflation of multiple things, and so I'm very confused. Start back from square one. So if you ever get lost, or if somebody else ever gets lost, start back from square one and describe the behavior of what you wanted. From there, you can both work to a common understanding, even if you don't know the like terms. That's my biggest trick. If you're a developer and you're trying to talk to your coworkers and you don't know the like terms to like interface with them because they're more senior or something, and you have this idea in mind but you don't know how to like express it, just talk about the behavior and talk about how you want it to like act, and then they can sort of like work backwards from that to get to some common terminology, and then they'll let you know. So yeah, I hate leak code a lot. You should too. I think maybe the industry could probably move towards some guaranteed standard that shows that you know what you're doing. But I also wonder like why the standard right now that we have, if it doesn't work, why do we even have it, right? And oh god, BRB, give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. In my mind, if the industry standard of a comp sci degree doesn't guarantee enough knowledge that a person knows to do the job and that they can get in, then maybe we need to change that standard. However, how do you do it in a way that allows even your average person to like still keep up with it and guarantee that that knowledge still works years after in the industry? I don't really know. I actually don't really know how to do that. I think it's fine if you require like a retest every now and then, but at least then it's like easy to like plan for it. It's like, okay, every year get your retest and then you're going to be able to work, right? It's similar to like doctors where from the outside looking in, it seems like they have to know everything, but doctors actually have to keep attending classes like throughout their entire career to consistently keep up with what they know. And that's apparently 50-50 on whether it's very effective or like not. I've heard many horror stories from doctor friends where like other doctors don't really want to deal with it or like care about it. But that's a whole different issue. I'm just saying that like we have some other models that we can look towards that to maybe implement that might be a bit better than what we currently have. The only downside is how do you do it in a way that can be subsidized for those who are self-taught? Because presumably you're self-taught because you don't have the means to do it, but it's such an open sort of field of knowledge that you can do it. But then how do you then guarantee your knowledge? Like, do you do the test? Or do you have the thing? Maybe you could have both, but then it puts too much onus on the companies. Like, it's too problematic of a problem for just me to solve. But I think there's a better solution. I feel like intuitively there's a better solution out there. It just happens to be that we haven't found it yet, and so we subject ourselves to this like cycle of, I wake up, I do another leak code. I wake up, I do another leak code. Where's the image? Where is my psyop cat? Where's my psyop? There we go. I wake up, I do another leak code. I wake up, I do another leak code. I just keep doing leak code until I die. And then when I go on the job, do you think I ever touched this? No! They're asking me to parse JSON data and put it into like fields on the website. I'm like, all right, guys, I feel like there's a mismatch in what you wanted to do. I don't think I can optimize this with a depth first search, okay? I don't think it's possible here, buddy. Let me show you what leak code is, though. So now that we know why I hate job interviews and why I hate leak code, what is leak code? Well, let me show you. What kind of music is this? It's drum and bass, or a mixture of drum and bass. Specifically, it's the Bomberman Hero OST. It sounds like music, sounds like something from Adventure Time. I mean, kind of. They did take a lot of inspiration from like that era of like music, from like basically millennial music. So it's like, it makes sense that it sounds very, very similar. But it's from Bomberman Hero. It's the OST for the game. Specifically, it's a drum and bass playlist of like every single, like a bunch of songs that I found. So hopefully you enjoy it. Well, it seems like you like it. You used to think that index starting with 1 in Lua is bad, but after yesterday, you're not sure. Oh, I see what you mean. I mean, yeah, I do hate the idea of the way indexing starts from zero, right? Just let me eat the spaghetti and I'll explain more. Hmm. God damn. Mm-mm-mm. That's some hot shit. Give me a second. Oh man, that's some good stuff. What a great business model from Jollibees to serve like the kind of very fast, basic food that you'd have at home, but just with more flavor, and all of a sudden, bam, it's really good. Well, not really at home. Mostly the food at home in a lot of areas there is pretty. It's like pretty. It's a bit like every other place in like Southeast Asia or like Asia in like general, where income is very low, and so you're usually eating nothing. Mm. Mm-mm-mm. Okay. So I agree with the assessment. Right now, indexes and arrays starting from well, indexes in any container, because strings are a container of bytes that then can be constructed into strings, and then or like words on the screen effectively, and then arrays and vectors, like just all different types of containers, right? The reason why Lua is starting from one is such a bad thing is because the rest of the industry has coalesced around starting from zero. So the first element is at element zero, okay? The reason why that's bad is because of everybody else. It's relative compared to the norm. In absolution, though, right? In absolute terms, starting from zero is an offense to everything. I feel like starting from zero has to be like a major mistake that was only done because of someone's preference, right? Because even the way that we count, we don't think of zero as a thing. We think of zero as nothing, as the absence of a thing. We think of it as the absence of everything. It's why it's such an interesting concept, and why zero for a long time had no like representation in like numbers. Like every other number apparently was invented. Again, this is working off a very, 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 very old now knowledge that I had about the history of mathematics. But every other number was found before zero, because why would you need to sort of encapsulate this idea of nothing being something, right? It ends up being useful in many different ways when you need to talk about nothing. And that wasn't really a concern before, because it's like when you talk about nothing, you just say, I'm starving, or I'm hungry, or hey, you gave me no apples in my bag. I'm going to fight you, right? Like that's a whole different concern. The problem is that you run into this weird case in programming right now where most languages, zero is something, but it's nothing, if that makes sense. Like zero, when it comes to container indices, when it comes to like positions, right? Positions relative to something, to some element. The higher level abstraction of zero is a term that in every other context is a representation of nothing, but in programming languages is a representation of something. You think it was made in C because of pointer arithmetics. Don't believe the lies. I know that sounds crazy, but as a programming language, you can build abstractions over it, and you can sort of ignore the underlying bits of it. And it wouldn't have made it necessarily bad to ignore the underlying bits of it to make us have to like access from index one. But if you're dealing with memory addresses, then you'd have to know about the existence of nothing, because then you could move to nothing, if that makes sense. Like the nothing point could be the actual origin, or the one could be the origin. Like they could have had two different models, right, for like what you were doing. It just so happened that the abstraction of like what is an array was not very far removed from what is just a bunch of like from what is a pointer with a guaranteed amount of space ahead and before. And even then, it's not actually guaranteed, because that's how buffer overflows happen, right? You iterate a bit too far, and all of a sudden you run into a bunch of weird issues and your password's leaked. Don't get it twisted. I think it's bad design. That is just something that we have to live with, because it's just sort of like the standard now, and Lua tried to change it, And I feel for Lua because they recognize that in the context of a container, not the context of pointers, okay? Again, you're thinking too much in the context of like melding the two together, and so you're falling into the same trap of like C, right? You're falling into the same trap of like why the languages did it originally. And you have to recognize that like we have modern languages that even do other things better than older languages, and a lot of things worse too. But like we're evolving as a language, we're evolving languages by design. We just can't get away from the notion of zero because it's way too complicated to then change everyone's mental model. So Lua tried. It just happened. It just had to die on the cross, effectively, right? Like Lua, they tried. Godspeed, but they had to suffer some consequences for being the first mover, right? Hopefully, the second mover, like if like Rust won a day, just as every container is going to be starting from like one. I think they might be able to be the ones to make change, but I don't know if the Rust community has enough cojones to like do that. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, yeah, you can extract it, but you guess that they want to make it consistent or something. Yes. Well, also no. I imagine one of the things about that programming language, at least from what I read about the way that it came about, was that they simply wanted it to be as low level as they could without necessarily introducing any cost to it, right? Because you'd have to introduce some way to translate the one into something meaningful, depending on the context, which is cost on some side, right? You can do it kind of on the compiler side, but what if it's a dynamic runtime, decision, right? What if you have an index that's this is a very niche case, but if you have an index that's dynamically calculated in a variable somewhere through some other series of operations, and then you use that to index a container. How do you then do a translation from it? And how do you guarantee that the user hasn't done a translation themselves if they're trying to do some mathematics from pointer arithmetic over into like a container representation, right? It's why I don't necessarily think that it was the wrong choice because again, in C, like a lot of the structures are very very low level and very little removed from what they are under the hood. Like an array is just. It's just a series. It's just a series sequence set of memory that you can then iterate over by doing pointer arithmetic to go through it based on the size of whatever it is that it should be holding, right? Like that gives you a lot of flexibility in how you like maneuver around an array because you get a lot of consistency with how you move between the elements, but also you can do a lot of like fancy optimizations that I won't get into because we're gonna be stuck here for like 5 hours. But it's a very interesting problem to have because when you go to C++, for instance, right? C++ is not really supposed to be like the C successor. It's like the spiritual successor. It has compatibility with it, but it is its own language. They could have gone with, index 1 being 1 for their vectors and like stuff because their vectors, don't actually play by the same rules. They kind of do, but there's so much in the language that could have allowed you to do operator overloads to handle these like these like manual pointer arithmetic cases, right? But we don't. Why? Because at that point it's established norms, right? The programming industry just kind of coalesced around C because it was like the one language that was used everywhere, so it makes sense. Again, like I find it to be a fascinating problem to have in terms of language design because when you design a language, there's two things that you have to keep in mind. One, what is gonna make this language different from another language, right? You could, some people target even like at the compiler level, the compiler for their language is like completely different. But in that case, you can just kind of like hook up a compiler to any language and get roughly the same results. Other people make their languages completely new in terms of like the way that they handle certain constructs, certain semantics, certain structures, like the language of it changes. And so the way that you can model your program changes. And then the way that your modeling of the program translates to the machine's view changes, right? It's like going from, say, here. It's like going from Zig to C or C++ and like vice versa. It feels mostly the same, except there's a few key differences that make it good for different use cases versus others. And I'm trying to keep it as general as I can and to explain it to somebody who like doesn't know this. Basically, it's same but different. It's like the best way I can explain it. It's really hard to explain because I never had to explain this. I know the differences, but I don't know how to explain it in a way that makes it very, very simple to consume. Um, or you could go the other way, and that's you do like a full innovation on something, right? But then you have to deal with the second factor of making programming languages, which is, do you continue to abide by the habits of existing programmers, if that makes sense? If you don't abide by the habits of existing programmers, what ends up happening is that everybody has to force themselves to learn your new model, which is a huge time and cost sink that they won't want to do. And so your language kind of, your language languishes. Hey, Chad, can you imagine we actually programming? That's a lie. We're gonna program, chat. We're gonna program. Okay, I'm gonna get to it. All right, and just let me rant about job interviews. Just let me rant about job interviews and then languages. Okay, and let me finish my spaghetti and put it away, and I'll be right back in just a minute. Okay, back. Did I mute? Yeah. I mean, it's because I said I would be right back. Okay, so we're gonna program, but give me a moment to rant about this. Now let me show you LeetCode, okay? Because for a lot of people who are not in the know, you don't know what LeetCode is, and you don't know why it feels so weird to have to answer these questions. And then I'll show you what your typical programming problem usually is, okay? So, what is LeetCode? Well, it's stuff like this. Let's go from easy to medium to hard. So we'll do, actually that's, yeah, that's good. We'll do this one, do this one, and we'll do this one. This is a medium. Yeah. It's algorithmic questions. You get a problem that's based around some thing that you need to do, and they test you on your time and your complexity. Well, how do I explain this that makes sense? How do I explain this that makes sense? I need to explain it in a way that non-programmers will understand. They test you on a large number of factors. How long it takes to solve, how by association complex your code is, by how long it takes to solve certain variations of the problem, which is a weird. Okay, so this is the weird part, right? Is that in math, you can either solve an equation. I don't know how to explain this. What's like a good example of like a layperson problem that has variations of it that scale in complexity that aren't themselves new problems? Like the idea of like pattern recognition for problems feels weird. Oh, I have an experience that will probably be the same for all of us. Okay, you work in retail, you work at a clothing store. All right, you got to you have to hang up your jeans, which is a different task from hanging up the shirts, which is a different task from having to hang up like an entire like suit that's on display, which is a very different task from hanging up, clothing on a mannequin, all with the same general goal of get the clothing in front of the person's eyes, right? These LeetCode questions are kind of similar to that, where the problem is how do you get the clothing in front of the customer's eyes? But depending on the scenarios that come about that are all a variation of that, of that overall goal, it's like the subtask of that goal. Your solution may or may not be good or bad for those problems. Because here, for instance, I could say, okay, I could say, okay, I know the numbers it'll give me. Like if I run this and then it'll give me like a set of numbers. I could then quite literally hard code the result here as a vector, right? And that's totally fine, except it would fail in, every single other case. By hard coding the solution, you would only solve one single case. So the goal is to build a general solution that it leans in one way or the other. And I'll get into what those one or the other ways are. In order to solve the problem in a way that you can reproduce the solution, no matter what inputs, what things are being thrown into, the mix. Wait, by programming, did he mean LeetCode? Did he mean LeetCode? No, but also LeetCode is kind of programming too. Okay, so I'll get into that as well. Just okay. Programming is LeetCode. LeetCode is programming. Solving LeetCode stream chat. I can't think of a more boring thing for us to do. The levers that you can kind of pull for your solution, even though your solution can be generic enough to solve the problem, can vary depending on the problem. There's usually this like triangle of, okay, Do you want speed? Do you want memory efficiency? Or do you want, but I forget what the third one was, right? And it's usually what you kind of pull for your levers. It might be really good for certain types of problems that show up in a very specific way. Like you might be really good at folding jeans, and you might be really bad at doing the mannequin side, but you can still do them both. It's just that when you get to the mannequin side, it gets worse, and that's a trade-off that you have to be aware of, or vice versa. Or you have a solution that's like equally as like bad at like both, but not as bad as like if you specialize in like one or the other task. You might just be okay at folding everything versus really great and then bad at something else, right? That's kind of what the algorithms kind of lay up to. And these can go from very easy, like you get okay, well, the two sum numbers, which is the two indices of given an array of integers, and what number they should add up to. You then return the two numbers that should add up to that number. Sometimes you might even have multiple solutions because let's say you have the number 6 and you get an array that's like 3, 3, 2, 4. Like duplicates is fine here, right? You could solve the answer by going 3, 3. You could also solve the answer by going 2, 4. The problem is that if you do 2, 4, if they're at the end of the list, your solution is taken longer to reach compared to doing 3, 3. Right? And so you're into a bunch of like weird, interesting problems. And then you kind of decide, okay, how do you optimize for this? Like, which solution do you take, even though they're both technically correct? What's the lever that you want to pull, right? And then it gets harder. You get into mediums, right? Mediums is what they usually throw at you if you're going for like, I want to say an intermediate role. So like your average software developer role or maintainability. My bad. Wait, what? If cringe return voice. That's good. that's really good. Top tier program. Your voice equals stick return cringe. But like yeah, so here this is the limit that what I've seen from most interviews. And if you're really good, like if you solve this in like 2 minutes and you solve this in like 3 minutes, then they're gonna throw this at you. The median of two sorted arrays, they're gonna throw hards at you. And then there's like an extreme level that's like beyond this where they'll pull up like a random paper. But that's usually for like if you go for like the really high level like algorithmic stuff that you really need to know. And I don't expect anybody to know these because you're basically a programming Olympiad. Like there is a programming Olympics kind of where you go and you learn how to do this stuff. And you need to know this cutting edge research. And they're the only people who know about this cutting edge research. Not even their interviewer will know what's going on. You're looking at MIDI controller with a touchscreen, but you can't find anything fitting. Get yourself one of them, whatchamacallit. I know that here, they have one. Get yourself one of these! Wait, not this. Well, wait, is this a new thing? Oh my god, chat, they have a new thing. Pocket operator. What's this? Okay, well, there is a touchscreen version of this that Teenage Engineering makes, but holy shit, they have like a new thing where every time Engineering makes something, it's like weirdly cool. Sick, and you can customize your like buttons. You're thinking more like the Electro one. I have a feeling we're talking about the same thing. Yeah, we're talking about the same thing. Here. I know what you're talking about. But it's because they make a similar one as well, which I can't find on their website anymore. God damn it! Why is their website so shit? Oh, you know what? I think it's because they cycle out their website and they only show the things that they're working on at the moment. They had a very similar one to the Electra one too. Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about when you explain it. It's just I can't find it on the website. The website's impossible to navigate. Jesus Christ. But yeah, you can just get any of these. I mean, also, but why do you need it to be touchscreen? Well, I mean, it makes sense why you want it to be touchscreen because it's very easy to extend and like stuff, right? But at that point, it's like I wonder if you're more focused on like the technology than you are like the problem. Although these would be nice to have. To be fair, it would be fun to like play with. But yeah, to give me custom apps for it, like you want to connect SoundCloud to it. Oh, it's like Cell. I mean, that could be cool, actually. Yeah, that is true. I mean, theoretically, though, right? Don't most of these have like a shared platform, anyways? So it's like you can just use the platform, and you just hook up like anything to it. So like, or rather, you can build it on your machine, test it, and then you just recompile it for the platform, and then it just works. No, just to use it. Oh, hey, you can go even further. Actually, you can go even further and get a cheaper one that you can just make yourself, and you can just print out your own boards, and you just 3D print like a bunch of like parts to it. It's way easier. I'm just kidding. It's not way easier, but I've heard a lot of people who like go down your route and they realize that they just make their own thing. Because for them, it's like their use of it is so bespoke that they're like, okay, we might as well just make our own thing, which ends up being easier in the long run because then they don't have to deal with programming to whatever this thing is, getting the money to buy it. Because I'm assuming this thing's fairly expensive. Okay, well, preparing my order. Yeah, okay. So yeah, it is 700 euros, right? And then on top of that, because they only need it for a specific purpose, and because the parts are very standard, like there's not really much different about these like parts for the most part. You can usually find someone who's willing to make like a standardized preset template of this, and they'll just like make it for you and then ship it to you, and then you just program the internals from like a very basic environment of whatever you really want, right? You just program the firmware. So it can be easier, it can be worse. It all depends on how custom you're going and how complex you're going. But I've seen even places that will basically prefab that will prefab these for you, similar to what they do anyways for the commercial product, from a very well-known spec of things, and they just send you it. And it usually ends up being cheaper from a cost perspective. You just have to pay anyways to program the buttons, which you kind of have to do anyways to like do the thing. Source, I only know as much as like how do I say this? I only know as much as like the Pi kits. Like there's a bunch of like different Raspberry Pi setups of this stuff, but they use different displays and stuff like that. Basically, here I don't really have a source too because they kind of disappear constantly. I guess this is a good site. No, what's a good site? Come on, you can't tease me like that. Well, I mean, listen, I don't do this stuff on a very like daily basis. I just see people do these projects and then I do research and I'm like, oh wait, there's like prefabs of this. I don't know. You can Google it too. Why am I wasting my time? I'm not doing it. Anyways, yeah, that's the whole point of this leak code thing. The point of leak code is to solve an algorithm problem and pull your levers to make sure that your solution works in different ways, and for you to be able to like talk about how it works. Well, that's why you said that you can't find any. I don't know. Just search up like a MIDI board. Here, MIDI controllers, and then go to like Alibaba or something. Here. That's all you need. Pretty much like a bunch of these are all you really need. And you just go over here and then you can get it straight from, I'm not even kidding you, a bunch of these places actually. So this is a well-known secret, but they don't want to tell you. A lot of these places that sell on Alibaba all these parts and they ship it to you, they're actually the same companies that make it anyways for these companies. Unless the manufacturing is like not in like China, like 99% of the time, whatever you buy that's made in like China, it's made from the same parts here that you can just get for like cheaper direct from manufacturer. It's weird. Yeah, you can figure it out. You're an AI. You're supposed to Google for us. Well, no. I don't have to do anything for you, Chad. But yeah, just want to show you about the state of job interviews at the moment. I find job interviews to be very, very fascinating because we test for a lot of the things that you can easily recall. Like if at any moment, right, you need to know how to do like a depth first search, you can just Google depth first search. You get a Wikipedia article or Geeks for Geeks. Geeks for Geeks is also good. It doesn't really matter. And you just read this for like 5 minutes. You go down to like some examples, and you're like, okay, I get it. They even have a pseudocode implementation that you just translate to your code, and you're good to go. 100% of the time, right? Then you just tweak this for like what you need. This is the reality of like programming, okay? Now, what are they interviewing you for? This is very important for me to show you. Shit. What are like open source? See, this is a problem when you ask me to like give you links to stuff, chat. I know these things exist. I know I've seen them somewhere before, but I don't save every single link because I don't care about you, right? Like, not to be mean, but it's like I could never have predicted that I would need these links for some random chatter to like have, right? So you're on your own. Even if I tell you about this cool thing, you're on your own to like find it. Because I'm not saving this for years for it to happen upon one single random chatter that just needs to happen to have this like thing. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense. Open production ready. The source is available. Here we go. A curated list of real world web projects that are open source. Here we go. Good. Thank you, random person. SDIL. Can you get an interview? Not for me. I I I can't give you one. Here's Zulip. Here we go. Let's say you go to Zulip, right? And you've just done like a leak code hard, okay? And so now you know how to solve what is it? Now you know how to merge case sorted lists, right? Well, that's great and all, except what are you going to be doing on a day-to-day basis? Here, I'll show you. All right, okay. So can you? Maybe this is a bad one. Actually, no. Look at the docs. Can you? Because let's say it's your first time and they want to help you get started slowly, right? They're like, okay. Can you update the help center article so that we have more information? Yeah, sure. How do I update it? Oh, just update this markdown file. Markdown. The thing that I use in Obsidian. The thing that the most complex thing about this language is the fact that you have to know how to make like headings and like stuff by using one or two hashtags. Yeah, if you want to do it, you need to update Markdown. Just enter in a bunch of hashtags. Like that's what they have you do. I'm not even kidding you. That's what they have you do sometimes when you start. And I'm like my brother in Christ. Like we both know this is just a marketing website. We both know about how things are going, and we both know that you're not developing anything crazy new in terms of a web framework. You're just using an existing web framework that handles all the complexities for you. So why do you need to do so much in terms of leak code just to get started? I don't know. I still don't know why. Trying to find like a good, I don't know, spot where it's like a web. Here we go. Web. There we go. HTML. Or let's say they want you to update parts of the website. Okay, well, hey, can you update the 500 error page? It's like, yeah, sure, okay. What do you need? Can you insert an SVG of it so that people know that there's an error? Yeah, sure. That's all you have to do. At what point does this problem come into play here? It never does. And yet every single job wants you to do this with the flawed hope. They believe that if you know this, that you're a good programmer, by whatever measure that is. And they believe that if you know this, when they need you to do a different kind of role, you can. Never realizing that, that never happens. Lateral movement within a company very rarely happens, except for in early startups. And you have a different motivation there because your motivation is primarily in like early stock or like early, ownership. Well, early ownership, early stock, like very good pay levels. Like well, presumably if you're a founder and you get like a percentage of like something, even like I've even seen some like profit schemes. So there's a whole different emphasis on there's a whole different like measure of gain that you can get by going into it from that angle, right? Otherwise, at an established place, lateral movement is very, very hard. And even then, they'll probably just train you on the job anyways, because your solution is probably bespoke enough to need some explanation. And during that time, you can just learn what you need to do because this is all very simple. And you can just Google the answer, look it up, memorize it, and like internalize it, practice for a bit, and you're good to go. But until they need that, I don't know why they test for it so early in the interview process. Again, I pass these interviews, but I always look at it as why do they even bother when they haven't even needed that solution yet, right? Like you're just doing stuff like this. You think this really like matters? Like do you think that this needs knowledge of merge K, Like no, this is just some whatever the fuck this is. Well, what's it doing? It's a regex to find before punctuation. Like Jesus. So yeah, if you ever get into a job interview in like tech, do leak code and then just know that it's a stupid handshake that you have to do. I find it very, very stupid for many, many roles and very, very unsuited to many roles. But it is what it is. You're gonna have to deal with it. The AI is flawed. This guy. Okay, look. To be serious though, I can't. Again, you can't expect me to recall answers immediately because I don't live for you, chat. I don't save links for you. I do this for myself. I don't even know what links I'm going to pull up on the day of. Like to get to here, I had to go and find this again and like find this and figure out which of these I want to like click on, right? Like it's just going to happen. But yeah, good luck. Godspeed if you're going through the interview process. I hate it even though I can pass it. I just recognize how stupid it is. My God. And again, if you're a self-taught programmer, it's very heavily weighted against you. So try your best to get really good at algorithms. Don't get books for it. The books are stupid. The books go out of date like instantly. Don't read research papers. They're not looking for cutting edge unless they are, but you would know if you know, right? Like if you're applying for a job at like OpenAI back when they first started, you would know what they need, right? Like you wouldn't just apply for the sake of applying. You would know what they're looking for before you even apply there, because you're probably also one of the only people who understands what they're doing and what job that you're even getting into. So cutting edge stuff never comes into play either. Go do LeetCode, solve 50 easy, 30 medium, 10 hard, and you're good to go. Doesn't matter how long you like take. Once you do it once, you should be okay for the most part. Godspeed. We're going on to DLEs. We're gonna do some Myrtle, some Food Guesser. My friend has not messaged me back yet. Oh wait, they have. Okay. Did you download Lethal Company and what was it the game? Roblox. Well, you don't have to download Roblox. But I'm not helping you figure out how to capture Roblox if you don't know how. We're playing Lethal Company and Roblox today with my friend. Sweet defecation. They have about 3 hours, so I don't want to spend too much on time on this. There's just some games that we want to like try out. And we have it's gonna be interesting to see how it goes. Obviously, this would have been longer, but they kind of fucked up on a bunch of things, which is fine. I just also recognize that like there's nobody else at play here other than like I can't do anything, and like realistically, there's nothing I can really do, right? But they also know that, so they mentioned that they were sorry and that they will be here soon. Until then, though, we're gonna do some Myrtle and stuff. Give me a moment to set it up. So again, for context, whatever they did with the magnet, I think as soon as they turned it off, my computer didn't like what was happening with the interaction between the car and the magnet. For some reason, that like broke everything. That was very odd. I also have like a thing that records how hot my computer gets and stuff, and it takes a snapshot every couple seconds. Looking at it, the moment that it happened, okay, my computer temperature was like maybe like 33 degrees on my CPU, which is like decent, right? In that moment, it spiked to 39 degrees. I don't know what happened. I think that's why my everything like crashed. I think my computer just like said, all right, listen, I can't handle this. But whatever the magnet did, it didn't like that, which is funny to me. When you consider like what the game expects you to do with that thing, I wouldn't have expected that to happen. So that shouldn't happen as we program, but who really knows? But that's why even like the V2 Studio stuff is like down. So give me a moment to set things back up. But wow, was that interesting. Also, as always, as a reminder, please post the food that you eat inside the Poop in Progress channel. We have a new submission today. A beautiful pasta with that's a very good looking pasta. Holy shit, that's really good. Chat, that is a delicious pasta. Wow. If only you could see it. But you can by joining my Discord. Okay. Where is the capture for this thing? Okay, well, wait. Actually, I need to go to the everything thing screen. Everything. There we go. There we go. So those of you who subbed, please don't do that. Please don't do that again, because I'm sure you don't make 6 figures like I do. I only said that as a joke because I didn't actually think anyone would like do it. But also, I'm sure some of you are very rich, and so again, if you're gonna help me test things, I only want the very rich people to like do it. So please don't do that ever again. Save your money. But hopefully, do you get Apple TV? Did you get Apple TV? Or does the person you gifted to get Apple TV? Can both of you tell me? Which one of you got Apple TV? Check your Twitch notifications. Does Twitch have regional prices? Yes. Definitely yes. Because in Canada, it's $8. In the US, it's specifically $5. They get it. The gifter gets it. So what's funny is that you got cucked. I don't think you can ever get it again. Because now that you have a sub, I don't think you can sub to get the Apple TV anymore because you got gifted a sub. I think you got cucked. That's kind of funny, actually. For you, it's not $8. I mean, still, I'd rather you spend the money on yourself, chat, right? Like, the money for me doesn't matter. Any dollar can change your life, right? Any dollar can change your life for yourself. Spend it on yourself. Even if it doesn't change your life, spend it on what you want to spend it on for yourself. Not for me. Also because they won't pay me out until $50. And also, I'm trying to again, I'm converting your eyes into money making machines. Okay, that's the deal. Wait, I have a thing that we have to play. Well, I have a thing that we have to play as we sign off for today. Thank you for watching, everyone. Thank you for showing up. Sorry about the Lethal Company jank. It was a bunch of last minute stuff, so I was just it was kind of annoying to plan, but it was good too. It was fun, so it should be good. Thank you for showing up, and goodbye. And I will see you all next time. Okay, it didn't do the thing. I haven't used this yet. I haven't used this very often, so I have to use it now. If you weren't there when I made this, you're like you have no clue what's going on. It's from a very old movie that I edited. Not that I edited the movie, I edited that one clip to make multiple headbangs. So, bye everyone.